Hello everyone, this is Tanya here from EduTV and I welcome you all to another insightful edition of our podcast today. Today's session is extremely important and highly relevant for students, parents, counselors and educators across India as we discussed a very important topic that directly impacts the future of education, especially the higher education in India. Scholarships in undergraduate admissions in India. How can students actually unlock the opportunities in top universities? And it's my privilege to welcome for today's discussion Dr. Shivani Sahani, the principal of the Modern School Faridabad, an eminent educationist known for her student centric leadership and progressive academic vision. Welcome to the program, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Namaskar. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining in, ma'am. In today's conversation, we would want to focus on several critical questions around scholarships and for the undergraduation courses. Shivani, ma'am, my very first question to you. Many parents still believe that scholarships are only meant for academic toppers. Is that the perception actually changing today?
Tanya, firstly, I would congratulate EduTV for bringing in such a pertinent topic. And specifically at this point in time, when after the board exams, the results of grade 10th are out and 12th we are expecting any time. And this is the time that the children and the parents and the counselors and the school teachers and everybody keeping their fingers crossed after filling the forms and all of that, waiting for their admissions. Though I'm a principal, however, today I'm going to be not talking from a principal's perspective, but as a mentor to the students, a guide to the parents, and also an educator who believes that opportunities should not be limited because of the gaps in the awareness. So, your question that the parents think that these scholarships are limited to toppers, it is often perceived that rewards are only for toppers. However, there are opportunities which are designed to support potential. So, I'm talking of potential. Not that somebody is already showing the talent. There would be students who would be very talented, already showcasing their talents, but then there is immense potential in children. So there are universities and colleges who are ready to unlock that potential. Diversity, also skills, perseverance, and the consistency. All of these things are together holistically being viewed by the colleges and universities today. So the quality of the higher education is also becoming accessible for students who are informed. Awareness, the information. If I am what I'm aspiring, if I am already preparing for that, if I have my checklist, if I start looking at the eligibility criteria, I would be in a better position to prepare for that. I would have all the relevant information, and time to time, I would keep working around that. So that is what is also going to be seen by the interviewer or by the mentors who are going to be going through the admission profiles of the students, how proactive the student had been, right? So I think today our the aim of a conversation uh, is to help our students and parents understand that scholarships are having no exceptions now, only towards the 95 percentile and over students, but they are just the pathways to recognize the perseverance of the children, pathways to recognize the talent, their immense potential, and their preparedness. So that's what my uh, understanding about scholarships for the students is.
Absolutely, ma'am. I think you rightly said that it's more about the perspective the students have in mind in terms of the overall performance of the child. Ma'am, talking about students, many a times you've seen they get confused about where to actually begin their journey to apply for scholarships. As a school leader, according to you, when should the students actually ideally start preparing in terms of applying for scholarships to different universities into undergrad courses?
So Tanya, I have seen that students generally wait for their class 12th board results. Then they begin exploring the scholarship opportunities because they again are perceiving that their scholarships would be dependent upon their marks that they would score. However, that's not the case. So, as I mentioned earlier, also, I would say that the students must start researching early. So once a thorough research is done, because say suppose I am shortlisting 4 or 5 colleges or universities for myself. Okay, I'm considering myself as a student. So what would I be doing? I would actually look at the eligibility criteria and also the scholarships that in various categories are offered by those institutions, because it is not just limited to one particular category, but there are various categories. Sometimes there is a category which is for armed forces. Sometimes there is a category which is for women in STEM courses. So there is various categories that are available, but because we are not aware, we would not even explore that, and we would wait for the result to come and then apply for the scholarships, which is marks based. So researching early is the critical thing in this, not waiting for 12th board results, but exploring the scholarship opportunities, their eligibility criteria, and the application timelines, because there are certain colleges and universities which would not take the application for scholarship. Once the result is out, they had their deadline. So those application timelines, and right from class 8th or class 9th, I think a child should start exploring these things. And then keep checking every year because the criteria also may change. So that awareness will help the child prepare a strong portfolio, which would help the child to take, to grab the scholarship under any of the categories.
Absolutely. Ma'am, talking about the other schools and the parents, what will be your message for schools and parents in terms of better guiding students through the scholarships ecosystem?
I'm sorry, can you please come again on this?
What will be your message for schools in terms of how can the schools and parents better guide students through the scholarship ecosystem?
Okay, schools again play a very vital role. Of course, parents too. So I'll talk about parents first, because parents are spending more time with the child. And generally, what we see is somehow, somewhere, we are in a habit of comparisons. Uh, and, every child may not excel in the same way. uh, every child would have a different potential, different talent. They would have got different circumstances of growing up. So we should be very mindful that, I mean, the parent should be very mindful that the parent should support the child's strengths instead of comparing the journeys of two different, ऐसा होता है ना कि वो देखो शर्मा जी के बेटे ने ये किया है, अच्छा वो देखो तुम्हारी क्लास में तो है वो, जब वो
Correct.
सोनल कर सकती है तो why can you not do that? Why
Absolutely.
can you not do that? Maybe that child is not able to do that exactly specifically, but there's something else that the child can do. And there are avenues available, right? So, my suggestion to the parents is that please support your child's strengths instead of comparing the journeys of different students. They recognize the diverse talents and capabilities of your child and start encouraging the child, motivating the child in those areas, because there's plethora of opportunities that exist. It's just that we need to be present to grab them and even create opportunities for oneself. Today, the students are vocal with the teachers. The students themselves come to me and they ask me, "Ma'am, can we actually do some TED Talk kind of a competition?" Now, if a child is coming to me as a principal, I would encourage the child. If a child goes to the parent and asks, "This is something that is coming to my mind," the parent should take that opportunity and speak with the school and ask them to create that opportunity. The schools also are looking forward for creating such wonderful opportunities for children where the children are keen in associating themselves with that. And why not do that? I keep encouraging my students wherever they are volunteering for any events in the school. I always give them a letter of acknowledgement. Now, this letter of acknowledgement gives a motivation to them to perform further better. This year, for our Model United Nations conference, there were 5 students who had been participating in Model United Nations conferences earlier. they were the mentors for my first timers. So just imagine, I didn't have to hire anybody from outside. And when the children themselves are seeing that our senior peers are educating us, are mentoring us, the kind of ecosystem that gets created. So they would also, when step up into that age, would do that. So that's what
Correct.
I think the schools and the parents should support the children. And the second thing that I would suggest for the parents would be to focus on awareness, not on the anxiety. Instead of creating pressure with respect to marks or with respect to affordability, because at times I have heard, quite a few times I have heard, uh, अगर ये नहीं कर पाएगा तो फिर यही करना पड़ेगा. I mean, I'm not quoting what, but
Correct.
I'm sure that you understand that,
Yes.
right? So that pressure should not be there, because if the child has that pressure, the child is going to perform under that anxiety. How would an outcome be? An outcome would certainly not be meaningful and productive if in case there is a performance that is happening under the pressure of anxiety, right? So rather explore, help children to explore opportunities. You have to invest time. Parent has to invest time, because parent also has to, of course, I suggest that the parents must always encourage the child to do the research work and all the spade work, groundwork. But then at the same time, keep exploring. Whatever the child says, मुझे ये अच्छा लग रहा है. Okay, this is where I'm inclined. Okay, let the parent also take out a little time and explore. Find out the best universities, find out the best teachers. Sometimes the university might have a great name, but
Correct.
they may be in a different, probably my child wants to go in the school of law, but the faculty for law is not that good, that right? But there is another course, the economics, where the faculty is amazing. So would that college or university be for my child? No. Right. So all of that homework needs to be done, sitting along with the child. So that is called exploring of opportunities, interacting with counselors. Everything is changing so ultra rapidly. The universities are coming out with various kinds of courses, attaching sustainability to certain things. Climate change is happening so rapidly. There's so much that is happening that as educators, even at times, I feel that I am not aware of everything. And it is not possible for everybody to be aware of everything. So connect. As we have doctors specializing in different areas, the counselors are also specializing in different universities and all of that.
Yes.
So might
Correct.
as well that only one counselor may not be of help to your child, but you need to probably go and touch base with 2, 3 people.
More
So
people.
please be open to that.
Hmm.
Attend university sessions. A lot of universities have approached schools. They keep approaching the schools, and they keep sharing the links for online sessions also. So as many as one can attend, because as much as I would be aware, I would be able to take an informed decision as a parent, right? So being informed of the evolving pathways in higher education, that is equally important. And this is equally important for teachers as well, because not that only parents would be able to guide, but teachers also, because the subject selection is happening in grade 11th. At that time, the teacher's role is extremely important, because if the teachers are not able to explain them well, like very recently in my school, there were 2, 3 parents who were wanting to take applied science, mathematics for their children for grade 11th. Now, applied mathematics is not that relevant. It is not really going to make that kind of uh, impact in the child selecting the courses up there in the universities and all. So since the teachers were aware, the teachers could really help them.
Guide them
Right.
properly.
And of
True.
course, for schools, it is very important for the teachers to keep mentoring the students. So because the students are there with them, they can actually guide the parents as well as students the areas where the children can take up and can perform well, and keep collecting various types of certificates, keep doing various types of project works, internships specifically in grade 11th and 12th. Now CBSE is introduced and suggested of introducing internships, and a lot of companies over 14 years of age, they are welcoming children to do internships with them. Volunteering experiences, as I was mentioning. And all of these things, the teachers should guide the students, because very recently I was having the council member, elections were happening, and we were to select the council members. I was taking interviews. So when I was taking the interviews, I was going through the portfolio of the children. Some of the students have kept their certificates very well organized. However, were they in the chronological order, or were they segregated as per the area, like whether all Olympiad certificates were together in chronological order, and then whether all the debates and extempore were there together. So such kind of things, all of these things need to be mentored. I mean, the children need to be, the children can't, not that everybody would be perfect in everything. So it's very important for us, schools and teachers, to keep guiding them. So that's very briefly that I can talk about, and be open to the immersion programs. In fact, a lot of colleges have started doing immersion programs for students with the schools. In fact, I'm taking my students of grade 9, 10th, 11th, 12th for 2 days immersion program in one of the universities on 18th and 19th. So that also gives the view to the children, the kind of subject combinations that are available. Sitting and checking everything online is not possible. So when the children are immersed in such kind of programs, then it also enhances their perspective. Like, for example, not that if you've taken science, you only have engineering or medicine. You may not go for MBBS, but do something in bioinformatics or genetics. So there's so much of things. And then uh, how how about the combination of psychology and biology? Generally, people think, अगर MBBS करना है तो why do I need to take psychology? But then there's a huge scope of that. Psychology and law, there's a huge scope of that. So there are various combinations that are there, specifically with respect to liberal arts also. So um, a lot of awareness amongst teachers and parents need to be built, and that's my suggestion to everybody to stay aware, keep checking, and keep exploring.
Very rightly said, ma'am. I think in a very short timeline, covered a lot of aspects, which, especially for parents and even for the teachers for that matter, because we have seen, you mentioned about the Sharma ji wala beta wala example and the others, which is very common. I mean, I see we interact with students regularly, with parents many a times, and that is where we get to hear it from many parents saying that if his classmate is able to do it, why is not he able to do it? Which practically is not possible, because every child has got a different mindset onto things, different area where he or she can excel. Ma'am, one last message that we would want you to share for those school students who somehow, despite that they are aware through the school, through their parents, they are aware of all the options that are available for them, but still somehow they hesitate to apply for scholarships because they feel that they might not be able to qualify for them. What is your message for them?
I mean, it's very important for us to understand the reason why they would feel that they might not be eligible for the scholarship. Because if there is a thorough research work that has been happening, for these last 3, 4 years before you reach grade 12, I think the child would be able to understand the areas which are in sync with the type of scholarships, and would be able to prepare well for that. And I think every child deserves the opportunity to dream without limitations. So, uh, not just only for toppers, but and also not only for merely as a financial support, but my message to each and every student is that scholarships are there to bridge a gap between the aspiration and excess. So every student is eligible for scholarship.
Wow.
Yes, and I would say that the learners, please stay curious, please stay committed, uh, keep yourself aware of the opportunities, and many doors that probably would be, seeming to be unreachable will open for you. there are doors. And if there isn't a door, there is always a window. So look for that window and jump in through that.
Wow, wow, great. Very rightly said, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. That was extremely insightful. And I'm sure all the students, parents, even educators who will be watching this would have would be definitely be able to gain some value and clarity about scholarships, opportunities, and the undergrad educators in India. Thank you, ma'am. On behalf of Edu TV, I sincerely thank you for sharing your expertise and guidance for our audience. Thank you.
My
This is
pleasure.
Tanya signing off from
Thank
Edu
you.
TV. Thank you, ma'am.